Hi, shalom friends. Amongst your adult acquaintances, how many of them do not know the ABC? I would venture a guess, very few, or perhaps none of them. Because in today's day and world, we figure if you can't read and write, you're certainly limited in your education. And if you're limited in your education, we surmise that you're probably lacking in intelligence. And I have to tell you, I know many people who don't know their ABCs. I think they're intelligent, clever, sometimes wise, and a pleasure to be with. And I'm referring to Jewish children. I have grandchildren who don't know the ABC, but I'm always taken aback in a happy, wonderful way to see how intelligent they are. Well, of course, I'm prejudiced because I'm a Zaidi. But seriously speaking, there are hundreds of millions of people, hundreds of millions, if not more, who cannot read or write, who have some of the most creative, brilliant minds on planet Earth. So, if you could be intelligent, and you could be a functional human being, and you could communicate with others just verbally, why do we study the ABC? And just to say to read and write, of what purpose is reading and writing? And I think one of the primary answers would be, you could be incredibly intelligent, creative, up to and including the genius variety, but to expand your knowledge and to go deeper into knowledge, for that you need the written word. And for the written word to be absorbed properly, you do have to know your ABC. So you could be intelligent, you could be functional, you could be creative without the ABC. With the knowledge of the ABC and the capacity to read and write and comprehend, the possibilities truly are endless. And even people of mediocre intelligence can shine because they have access to so much wisdom around them. I would like to suggest the following. Judaism has ABCs as well. Every Jew is born intelligent in terms of God. He has an innate feeling towards spirituality. He believes in God. He trusts in God. He understands that the Torah, the wisdom of the Torah is awesome. He respects Torah scholars, though he can't read the word himself. This is native intelligence. But in order to appreciate the beauty of Torah, and in order to delve deeply into the relationship between God and his people, we have to know the ABCs of Judaism. You have to be able to read and write. I'm not only referring to the Aleph Bet and reading the Hebrew, I'm referring to foundations of Jewish thought. Let me share with you one of them. Let me caution you, I'm just going to be touching the surface of it, and there might be something in my presentation which you disagree with, which is fine, but it is a valid presentation emphasizing one particular viewpoint. So with that disclaimer, we have something called cause and effect. So I'm going to give three examples, one very frivolous, one somewhat serious, and one extreme. And you fill in the gaps in between. One not so important, or so it seems. If you grew up in the 1960s, you were aware that on every other corner, or many of the corners, they had a public telephone. And you could make a telephone call. All you needed was a dime. So let's imagine that there's a wonderful husband, a devoted son, and his wife says, tomorrow at lunchtime, you'll have a window You have 45 minutes after eating lunch. It's a 5-minute walk to the public phone, a 5-minute walk, and I'm giving you 5 minutes. Please call me between 12 and 1. And mom, call your mom because your dad is going to the doctor and she wants to share with you the results. He says, no problem. She says, no. Sometimes you get caught up. So I want you to write it down in front of me. So to humor his wife, he writes down a little note and he sticks it in his wallet. And goes to bed. The next morning, before saying goodbye to his wife says, you're not going to forget? Which is, of course not. And then with a smile on her face, did you prepare the dimes? And he's like, with chagrin, no. He said, well, I did. She gives him 4 dimes. Just in case. Let me see you put it into your pocket. He puts it into his, to humor her. And the day goes wonderful. Of course, he did not forget. And right after lunch, he walks and during the whole time, he's feeling in his pocket. Yes, he feels the dimes. He gets to the public phone. There is no dime in his pocket. He's pretty upset because he can't remember taking it out. In fact, every once in a while, he kept on just feeling it. And he puts his hand in his pocket. It's not there. Maybe it's the other pocket. You know, you've been there. You're looking for your keys. You try every pocket. You look underneath your yarmulke. You know, it's not there. Okay, it's not there. It's not there. Comes home. Let's make it nice. He's greeted. Welcome home, honey. How was your day? And then, did you forget? I didn't get the phone. Did you try? He says, believe me, I went. I did not forget. My intention was to call you and to call mom, but I didn't have a dime. She says, I myself gave you dimes. I myself saw you put it in the pocket. How did you disappoint the 2 women that love you the most? And he says, I don't know. It's not there. And she says, did you check? I did. Humor me. Take your pockets inside out. Takes his pocket inside out, and sure enough, on the bottom of the pocket, there's a little tear. So while he was sitting, he felt the dimes. When he got up to go outside, he walked down the stairs, they slipped out through that little slip. He didn't even know it because it was so small. It was on the bottom, and he never lost anything. Okay? So now, we as detectives know he did not call. Why did he not call? The answer was there was a hole in his pocket. Case closed. Perhaps it's something else. Perhaps he was not supposed to make the call. For whatever reason, it doesn't make a difference why the call was not made, because it should not have been made. Now the question is, how does he know that it should not be made? Logic tells him that he should make it, and his wife agrees. So they do everything naturally to ensure that he will make that phone call. But it was not meant to be. So what does the heavenly court decide? Let's make a little hole. So though he will do everything from his power to prepare for the phone call will not be made. In this case, we're looking at it in reverse. The effect had to be. Therefore, God orchestrated a cause. It's not the other way around. It's not haphazard or random. Because he had a hole in his pocket, therefore, he could not make the phone call. No, he was not supposed to make the phone call. And therefore, a hole was created. It's very possible that that hole was not there the day before. A second case, far more serious, but not life-threatening. There's a fellow who has to bring in reports once a week or once a month, and sadly, he has a manager who's a big anti-Semite, who really wants to find a reason to keep him down, not to promote him. So every single time he makes the report, he writes it up then he spell checks it. This is in the early days before they had automatic spell checking. And then the following day, he would fix the grammar and, okay. He writes up the report. It's late at night. The automatic, there's a red line. He figures tomorrow morning what will happen is he'll get up 15 minutes earlier, print it out, and before printing it out, he'll fix the mistakes. He wakes up 15 minutes late. He's running around. He has to print it out. He has no time. He says to himself, come on, just a couple of spelling mistakes. The report is accurate, gives it in, and he's called in. You have been negligent, whatever it might be, and there's a very bad repercussion. What is the cause of his aggravation? Well, the spell checker didn't spell, or he didn't have time to fix. What was the effect? That this not nice human being was able to punish him. Perhaps it's the other way around. Perhaps this person was supposed to suffer this aggravation of an irate manager, but because he's such an efficient person and so competent, in the laws of nature, there's no reason to fight him. So Hashem orchestrated events where he could not have the time to fix what seemed to be incidental. And finally, we'll go to an extreme. I know it's a bit longer than usual, but bear with me. An extreme, and this sadly happened. This is not a made-up case. There was a young girl of, I think, 11 who had very severe asthma. And when she had an attack, she needed some type of an inhaler. Her parents, very devoted parents, were always on top of this. They always made sure that the inhaler was next to her bed, in addition to which each one had a spare just in case. One night they hear her coughing and then gasping for breath. Usually seconds later, this 11-year-old girl who's very mature would take the inhaler and they would hear her breathing. But she's wheezing and gasping. They jump out. This poor girl is in distress and they start looking for it. They can't find it. Precious seconds are passing. And finally, he runs back to the room and he says to his wife, I'll get the spare. For some reason or another, the spare that he always kept near him, he couldn't find. She's frantic. The kid is literally gasping for breath. The mother can't find it. The father, you could hear things flying. Where is it? Where is it? So she decides to call 911. But looking for the cell phone, instead of it being on the recharger, was in the kitchen. By the time they called 911, it was too late. It did not have a happy ending. Now you can understand mentally the agony, the pain, and then the blame and the guilt. Why couldn't I find it? They went through the entire house. You know where her inhaler was? Underneath the bed. Somehow it fell off in the middle of the night. No one knows how. And it rolled underneath the bed. They were looking on. They were opening up the drawers. They were looking in the bed, thinking maybe she dropped it. No one thought of looking under the bed. And the fact that the cell phone wasn't in its right place, it happens. So what was the cause of her death? They couldn't find the inhaler? Or was there an effect? This was the moment that this young girl had to leave this world for whatever mysterious reason that we'll never know. And in order for this to take place, the cause had to be introduced. So this is an ABC. Nothing happens without a divine reason for it. Many times we look at the cause and we blame the cause, but we forget that the cause was merely to bring us to the effect. If we concentrated on the effect, often not only can we protect ourselves from a cause, but we could also identify what we should be doing. So now let's take a flying leap. We don't have the Holy Temple today, and in the Holy Land of Israel, I won't go through it, but there's so many issues that it's dealing with, which could be summarized in one word: godliness is not being revealed. Why? So we can look for the cause. We have sin, there's politics, and because of our sins, or because of our politics, or because of our small-mindedness, therefore we are where we are today. And where are we today? Minus a temple, minus holiness, minus the land that God has chosen for the Jewish people. What happens if we looked at the effect? The effect is we are not comfortable in a non-Jewish world. That's the effect. I mean, it's easy. You could demonstrate this so easily, where a boy or a girl, we'll take a boy because it's so much easier, he's embarrassed to wear his yarmulke in school or in the yard. But bring him to Israel, he has no problem wearing his yarmulke. He doesn't cover it with a baseball cap. It's not like he's not proud or happy to be Jewish, but in the playground, surrounded in a non-Jewish environment, he is uncomfortable. In a Jewish environment, he celebrates. Perhaps the effect of being where we are today, both the people in Israel and the land of Israel, and more specifically, even us in this great blessed land of the United States of America, why are we looking for all of the causes of why? Why is there so much anti-Semitism? Why is there so much this, so much that? Let's see what we can do. Yeah, that is an approach. But let's look at the effect. We are not comfortable here anymore. We're strangers. We're not looked upon by our neighbors in the way we would hope to be looked upon. Where will we be looked upon like that? When we go back to our land. And it will be a land, not a state among states or a country among countries, a member of the UN, but it will be the Holy Land, a land literally of milk and honey, physically and spiritually. And there will be a holy temple, a Mecca, a magnet. People from all over the world will travel, not for a nightclub, but for an exposure to a people, a religion, and a nation under God, literally. So, my friends, ABC of Judaism is we are here now for one reason only. That reason is to spiritualize ourselves, to spiritualize the world, to prepare ourselves for the coming of Mashiach, and we've made great strides. Let's hope and pray that we finish the job very quickly. Shalom.